What I will do is I would like you to have your model next to mine as we go through this, because like I said, I am only going to explain this once with what we are doing and how we go through this from start to finish. So what we have here is of course the model itself. All I'm going to be doing is creating a turntable render of my model itself and what we can work with. So first and foremost, all I've done, copied this across so it's in here. I'm just going to change this to 125 for now. Right, so what I've got here is my model itself. Down at the bottom we have what we would call the scrubber. That's a technical term that would be used in like films or anything like that. What we are going to do is, of course, create our model that's going to rotate, and then we're going to be able to render this out. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to select my model, and down on this little, first and foremost, just in case yours isn't, all I've done is I've changed the timeline down here to 125. So this is set the end time of the playback range, and this one to the right of it, I believe is set the end time of the animation. They're both set to 125. It doesn't really make too much difference that we're looking at. But what that means is I've got 125 frames of data to work with. 125 frames of data. So if you're not sure how to do that, just simply click down in this box where my mouse is and make sure that they're both at 125. What I am going to do is I'm adding keyframes for my model's rotation so that I can get this to effectively create a turntable render. What I'm going to do is, hopefully you can see this, I've got this little black slider, and wherever I move it you'll notice that the little number below it is changing. That is my active frame that I am currently on. I'm going to set this down at 1, so in other words my starting frame, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press S. Everyone please select the model, make sure your time slider is set to 1, and I'd like you to press S for me. What S is responsible for is adding in MIT keyframe. So a keyframe is responsible for storing a number of pieces of data. You know that a keyframe has been added because of this little red line here. Little red line. That means the keyframe has been entered. A keyframe is responsible for tracking 3 values. 3 values. Transformations, so in other words X, Y and Z coordinates. Rotations, once again, in X, Y and Z, and of course scale in X, Y and Z. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to take my time slider, I'm going to move this all the way up to 125, so the end of my animation, and on my attribute editor on the right hand side, I'm going to change my Y rotation to 360. I just paused that. So, select my model, make sure that I give it 360 in the Y, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click in the space, and I'm going to press key All. Why does my model disappear? I've moved it. I have translated him instead of rotating him. I have done a new move. Let me just delete that out of there. So on my 125th frame, instead of moving it on the translate Y, I of course want to rotate it on the Y. So I'm going to put in 360, I'm going to right click, I'm going to say key All. So what I have here is over 125 frames, my dude spins.
Where is that key All thing? Sorry.
Okay, so once you've got your value set, 360, if you right click in the space, you'll notice you have the option for key All. So what key All is doing is, of course, adding in the translate coordinates, the rotation coordinates, and the scale coordinates. We're all good on that. So what you should see is if I press play down on my tracker, my model spins effectively pretty quickly. But all we're doing is we have got a turntable render. So the dude is just spinning around. What I'm going to do is stop this. I'll just put my slider back down to 1 for now with my model selected, so you can see that I've got a key at 1 and a key at 125. What I'm then going to do with this, folks, is I'm going to go up to my shelf and I'm going to change this from polygons to rendering. Polygons to rendering. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to move all the way across to the clapperboard with the 2 dots next to it that say Display Render Settings. Display Render Settings. I'm going to press this, and this brings up my render parameters that I would like to use for this. Some of these things aren't going to work if your model is still spinning, so please make sure that your model is not moving, that you simply have your keys and everything set. What I'm going to do with this is on my file output, I'm going to change this from a Maya IFF, and I'm going to change this to our common AVI file extension, so AVI. This is of course going to allow me to create a video of my object that I've got here. I'm simply going to scroll down, and my start frame is of course going to be at 1, and my end frame is going to be at 125. So, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to change this from the preset on the HD to 640 by 480, so old TV speed. Mike, the 25, what's that?
That's the little running man down by the right.
Okay.
Bottom right.
So, what we're going to do is we have those settings applied for what we need. So we have this set as a AVI. We've got it set so that our start frame is at 1, our end frame is at 125, and what we also want to do is we're going to decheck alpha channel mask. Alpha channel mask, because what that's going to do is it's going to remove the transparency from behind the object itself. So this means we're just going to have a black background. So what we have is start frame 1, end frame 125. We're setting this to an AVI. We come all the way down. We can simply press close on this for now. What we'll find though is at the minute our model spins really, really quickly because of the frames per second. What we were effectively doing is our character was spinning at about 60 frames a second, probably a bit too quick. So we want to go and change that. So this little object down here, it's the little running man which says Animation Preferences down in the bottom right hand corner. I'm simply going to press this to open it up, and what I'm going to do is I am going to change the playback option. So instead of play every frame, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down into other, and I would like the other speed to be set at 25. So this is effectively creating POW. So, what we have, everything else is perfectly fine. We don't need to worry about anything other than that. We have set our speed, so how fast we'd like it to be. I'm just going to simply say save on these settings. And now what I need to do is, of course, render out my turntable. The way in which we can do this is, because we're on the rendering tab, we can go up to render, and what we'd like to do is batch render. So once we click batch render, what this is going to do is if you look down in your bottom right hand corner, you'll see it says rendering with my software, and what this is going to do is it will take a little bit of time, but once it starts going, what we'll find is this is going to render out our object. We'll keep an eye on it. It's just saying what it's going to do. It might take about a minute or so just to get it up. But then what we will find is this will render out an AVI into our scene for us. Render faster.
Oh, mine's done.
If yours is done, folks, what you'll be able to do, I'm just waiting for mine to render out. If you click on this little box here, which says Script Editor, what you'll find is mine's just taken forever for I don't know what reason at the minute, but it should tell you the file path into where your video is being saved to. So what I'd like you to do is, once you have rendered that out, I would like you to navigate to that file path and take your video out of your model that you have created a turntable render for, and I would like you to stick that into your Statler. Video equals done. Smiley face. Mike, why is this taking forever? It's just rendering with my stuff. Just look at the batch, don't you?